The higher the minerality, as long as you're using the correct production techniques, you create more esters in the beer, which are then the fruit compounds in distillation. So in general terms, the higher the minerals, the more fruit character you get in the distillation. And that's what makes BenRiach that really fruit forward nature. So that's what I love about BenRiach. Although they do share the same production water as Longmorn, they do things very differently in production. So we still share the same minerality, but their production techniques don't really expose the fruit character as much as we do, which I'll explain as we go through there as well. But if you were to go up to the top of that roof, what you would see is probably about 6 distilleries around us. We've got Longmorn there. Another mile further south, you've got Glenelgin. If you go just behind these trees, it's Linkwood. If you go into Elgin, you've got Glenmurray. A little bit further, you've got Gormacfales BenRiach. And then just over there, you've got Manachmore and Glenlossie. So we sit in the middle of 5-6 distilleries, top end Speyside distilleries. And then when you go down to Dufton, Rothes, you've got the other Macallans and everything. So we have the kind of Elgin 6, as we call it.
Elgin 6.
It's there, so it's, again, it flows extremely well. Very first thing, what comes up, reverses into this hatch, and that's where we take the barley into. So the barley comes off the lorry, straight into this granary. There's roughly 6 bins in there of barley, and about 25 tonnes of barley each time. And all the barley we do use is from the local area. It's about a 60-mile radius of the distillery, and we use our maltings for our majority of our whisky, which is actually nearly at Glenglassaugh. So the malts that we use from the fields to the malts are to here, very short distance. And for me that's a great thing, because the shorter you keep the distance of your barley, the more fresher that barley will be. If it's got to travel thousands of miles and dry out and lose some of that character, when you mill it, it becomes very, very flowery. So by keeping the barley local, it means it arrives on our doorstep in the best condition possible. So that's another thing about BenRiach. Not only do we promote all the fruit forward nature, we do also promote all the lovely sweet barley notes as well. So we want to get that, make sure we get that best barley that's going to give us this lovely kind of sweet barley maltiness, as well as all these lovely fruit compounds in distillation. So not very exciting building, just a wee bit. It holds 6 bins, 6 silos of barley there, and then you can see the next stage would be into the mill room. The last 5 years have doubled, if not quadrupled capacity. You know, they're making, they used to make 3 million, now they're making 9, 12, 18, 15, 25 million, you know. That's what I love about our 3 sites. They're still maintaining that traditional approach and volumes. I think even Glenfiddich has just added another 40 stills or something. Glenlivet also is up to about 60 stills. Glenmorangie up the road, that's almost just like, God, stills as far as the eye can see. And then the new Macallan, which I don't know if you saw, but that's an amazing building. Nothing wrong with that, and I feel that that's a great sign for the industry. You know, that people are making more whiskey, and it's encouraging to see that. But once you do that, you can't go back again. So I think what that stands as in us in good stead for the future, that if we can just, you know, make our whiskey the way we do it, nice small way, we'll stand out. It not only just today, but in 2, 3, 4, 5, 10, 20 years time, as these small distilleries. And also, we don't sell any other whiskey to other people. So we don't sell whiskey to blenders. We don't have to make whiskey for blending capacity. So this volume's enough for us. Even with the predicted growth we have over the next 25 years, what we're making today can still fulfill the needs in the market to reach where we want to be. So that's what I love about the future, is that these guys, I love how it's passionate and people are expanding, but our 3 are just keeping that old school nature. The other thing you should do when you go into any distillery is just smell the atmosphere around you. So when I come in here, straight away, I talk about all these fruit characters. Even in here, you can smell that lovely fruitiness. It's got this lovely sweet, fruity barley dough. You go to BenRiach, it'll be heavier, more of a kind of brewing smell. And then Glenglassaug's got this lovely wee funkiness to it. It's got this combination of rich barley and then a kind of sweet note running through it. So I always say, if you stand here, this should tell you a lot about what's happening through production. So let's jump into the mill room. 1 tonne of barley, we get about, what we hope to get, around 420 litres of alcohol. 1 tonne. for 1 tonne. That's if everything's going good there, no mistakes, no problems. We're looking for 420-ish litres. So that barley's coming through there. The barley's going to go through this system. And all this blue machinery is purely for cleaning the barley. Because there will be some debris in there. You know, you can see how there's some dust and some stalks, and this thing moves back and forward, removing any bits of stones, and then that wee stone are there. So all the blue machinery is just going to clean the barley up into perfect condition to then drop into the mill. So that's a lovely old Porteous mill there. That was probably the oldest part of the machinery. That's back from 1965. And that barley drops in, and then that's where we break the barley down into the grist mixture in 3 parts. These are all our mash tuns at all our distilleries are traditional mash tuns, so you have to be quite accurate with how you grind this barley. If you've got a more modern mash tun, which basically are German beer brewing machines, you could do anything with that. You could just crunch it up, boom, throw it in, and you've got the brain of these modern mash tuns would cope with any condition of barley. But with these traditional mash tuns, you need to make sure the grind is right to get the maximum sugar extraction, but also make sure that you get the drainage of the water through the barley as well. So roughly, the coarse part, so the outside husk, is about anywhere between 15-35%. I would say generally 20% would be the husk, the outside shell. Now that outside shell is important because that creates the drainage, it allows the water to drain through the mash. And also that husk as well will add some lovely kind of maybe more deep barley notes, that depth of barley flavour in there. And then the middles, which is almost like a small sugar kind of granule, that's where most of the sugar is contained, and we want that between 55 and 75. I would say here 70% is probably the best percentage for the grist to get the maximum sugars in there. And then the fines are just the flour, and the flour is there just to bind it around a little bit, so probably 10% flour. So that's a perfect grind combination to give us the best extraction and drainage out of the mash tun. Because unlike American whiskies, as you guys all know, when you do a mash of American whiskies, you generally take all the cereal through into the fermenters. Whereas here in Scotland, we don't do that. We don't take all the cereals, you don't take the mash bill through into the fermenters. You basically, from the mash, you just drain off the clear sugary water, and that's what goes for fermentation. So we want that drainage to be the best as possible. Each mash here is 5.8 tonnes. I should say it there somewhere. Say it that one. 5.8 tonnes every cycle, and this is the largest one. BenRiach is 5.8, BenRiach is 3.75 tonnes, and Glass is 5 tonnes. But even this is small compared to others. Other distilleries are 8, 10, 12, 15 tonnes per cycle. So this is, I wouldn't say it's a small distillery, but it's the smaller of the medium-sized distilleries. 9:30, probably just before the power went off, this was the mash. And although this is made from stainless steel, people think it's maybe a more modern mash tun, but it was put in 1985. But the lucky thing was, although it's stainless steel, it's still a traditional working mash tun. So there's no continual blades moving around, there's no continual water adding in. It's every water is infused separately, and then there's a big plough in there, a big rake, which only turns twice every time to mix that water up and the barley up. But there's something also we do, at this point we do very differently, and maybe I can show you this sheet that might explain it. So we can see this here. So again, everything we do at BenRiach is wanting to elevate the sweet and fruit nature.
Sweet and fruit.
Yeah, every single step along the way is pushing towards driving these flavours forward. So the first thing in this thing, in mash tun, it makes it very different. We add 4 infusions of water in here, and normally everywhere else just adds 3. If you add 3 waters, you have to make the temperature higher to get all the extraction of the sugars from the barley. So a 3-water system will use a higher temperature profile to remove all the sugars from the mash. Again, BenRiach, we do 4 waters, and what that allows us to do is get all the sugars out, but we can lower the temperature profile. So BenRiach, even at this stage, is about looking after the barley flavour and the sweetness of that barley. So I always say, remembering that barley is our vegetable. If you cook cabbage, any vegetable, if you boil at 99 degrees, or you gently simmer at 93, which will be more flavoursome of the vegetable, it will be the lower temperature. So basically we're simmering this rather than boiling it. And by just that gentle lower temperature water profile, it does again elevate the sweetness of the barley coming through. There's only one other distillery that does this in Scotland. There used to be a few, but there's only one left now. And actually the one that does it now is the old owner, Billy Walker. He took this technique to his new distillery and does it there also. So he's taken a little bit of here with him, you know. So, but that's the privilege we have of time, you know. We never rush making whiskey. We only do Monday to Friday, you know. We're not churning whiskey out, so we can take a little bit longer doing these things just to make sure we're building the best character going forward. So yeah, so 4 water mashing definitely is, I can't say unique anymore because Billy does it, but very unusual. But again, what the flavour profile, what this is bringing is to elevate that sweet barley. Sweet barley. Sweetness. But if I take a sample of this, we can let it cool down a little bit and taste this. Now there's many writers also, if you want to go geeky, there's a geeky point at this stage which is very important. It's how clear is this juice, you know? If you've got a modern mash tun which is, you know, stirring it continually, it's adding water in, stirring it all the time, when you're doing that, this liquid in here will be quite cloudy. It'll be almost not milky but opaque. And what that is because it's rummaging around, it's bringing a lot of flour through into this liquid. Now, we don't have that. We pump very slowly. It only the rake inside only turns twice. So this is actually one of the clearest worts. You know, this is the wort, the sugar extraction. That's the clearest wort I've ever seen in my life. And even like Dave Broom, the whiskey writer, I'm sure you might be familiar, he has done books or, you know, talking about just the clarity of wort. And even he says this is one of the clearest worts he could find. So you might ask him, what does that bring to the whole, you know, whole flavour profile? What that means is when you take that lovely clear wort, almost like tea, you then ferment it. After fermentation, when you take it through to your stills, there's no flour in there, there's no cereals. And if you've got a very cloudy wort, when you go to boil it up, that flour then sticks onto the inside of your stills and then stops the copper contact. Because the boil coming up, that flour will kind of inhibit the copper reaction. So having a very clear wort means when it comes to boiling it up, we've got very clean copper contact. Which again, that copper's important to remove any sulfates and compounds we don't want. Which is another one thing that adds towards the sweet fruit nature. Just really good copper. And there's another thing you'll see through there that actually, even just visually, tells you we've got good copper. So let me get a jug of this and I'll let it cool down as we walk through and we can come back and taste it. Let me start getting there. That fermentation, so that's about, I would say that's about maybe 18 to 20 hours old. So these ones were removed in 1977. So these stainless steel were put in 1977. I think I actually say that's a benefit. A lot of people say, well, wood is more traditional, which is correct, because that's the vessel that would have made out for. But if you've got wooden washbacks, the wood itself doesn't flavour the beer. It's the bacteria that's left in the wood after, you know, the previous use that will then give you this bacterial fermentation, which gives you darker, heavier notes. Now that's great for Glendronach. Glendronach's all wooden washbacks. Glendronach, I always describe Glendronach like making a double espresso. You know, instead of everything at BenRiach is elevating towards the fruit and sweet notes, everything at Glendronach is going down to double espressos. Dark, heavy, you know, dark, heavy, rich, robust notes. So wooden washbacks are great for Glendronach to add to that robust heavy weight. Where I feel with stainless steel, because we can get them 100% sterile, you know, we can remove any bacteria from this before we add the next lump in. For me, having no bacteria left in the washbacks, that again maintains that lovely clean fresh flavour. So I think the stainless steel wash backs fit the BenRiach palette perfectly, because again it's going to emphasise this lovely, fresh, clean, crisp note. There should be one through the back we can taste. So these are all ready to get filled up. So the boys will start filling these through the week. Here's one through the back. Very rich, heavy brewing though. We're down here, total opposite. And when we taste this, this is another great thing about BenRiach. It's got extremely long fermentation. So the fermentation can be in some parts of the week up to about 105, 110 hours, which is extremely long. Most distilleries, if they say they've got long fermentations, they'll say, we've got long fermentation, 55, 60 hours. It's like, well, hey, you've got 105 hours. You know? And what that 105-hour fermentation is going to do, it's going to build that almost kind of crisp acidity in the beer, which then is going to be the esters, which are the fruit compounds in distillation. So when you do taste this, it's going to be lovely, fresh, crisp. Again, going back to that green apple skin, like a cooking apple, that's what I always think of. But that's another thing that I love about this. Here's some beers at this stage. This is about the 8.5 ABV. Some beers at this stage would be almost like a pint of Guinness. You know, it'd be very creamy, it'd be very rich, and that's lovely. But when you taste this, it's just so fresh, so crisp, so light. And that's again, not even the long fermentation. It's even so far before waters, the long fermentation, the stainless steel washbacks. That's what's keeping that profile. Have a jug. Right there. And that's feeding into the mash.
So it doesn't come back, it just repeats. Yeah.
But like
the dilution, right?
Yeah.
But like for this, how like in a day, how many times can you do?
Normally it takes about 6 hours for a full cycle, and normally you would look at other distilleries would do like 24-hour working days, and it would be 4 mashes per 24 hours. But we just do 2 mashes a day.
So one mash session takes you 6 hours.
Yes, roughly. But yeah, that's awesome. And historically, again, you would colour. Well, I started doing this because it was the way everyone did it. If you colour code your stills, it makes it easier to look through. So anything that is this red colour is the first distillation. Okay. So these are the first distillation stills. And then even if you follow the pipe, any red pipe is all about moving that beer into this. So red is almost the first distillation colour. From here, it goes into the left-hand side of the safe. And that's in these washbacks, 30,000 litres of beer we have there. So 30,000 litres of beer, and we split that between these two stills, 15,000 litres in each. So that comes to about here, just on the arch. When you read this, the contents, actually that should say capacity. So the capacity internally is 21,000 litres. We fill it with 15,000 litres just here. Now if that's 8.5 ABV in that beer, after that distillation happens in the first distillation, by the time it goes through the still, the safe, and into the tank, what we're going to end up with is what we call the low wines, and that's going to be about 25 to 26% ABV. So that first distillation taking it from 8.5 to 25, 26 ABV.
Actually, how does it increase here?
Basically, that's what we're doing. We're actually slowly, and that's another thing as well, we're slowly boiling this, and then we're taking off only the alcohol, leaving the water behind. So that water is staying down here. We're just taking off with the alcohol vapour into the safe itself. And the other thing with these stills, you can see they're kind of, I call them onion-shaped stills, Unlike other stills, when you can see maybe the still shape comes down, then a bubble, a boiling bowl, then another one. We don't have that. We don't have this bit here. So what that means is the still guys, Fraser there, we have to boil these very, very slowly. If we put too much heat on this, that beer will go, then we'll just boil the beer over. The beer will come over the top. So these have to sit very slowly heated, and then that simmering here, again, it's perfect because it suits BenRiach, because that slow boiling will give us the best alcohol vapour coming off that beer, but also if you can run that slowly, go back to the copper contact, that rising vapour has got more time to interact with the copper. Again, the copper is going to remove any compounds we don't want and the kind of sulfate. So again, even this is the slow running nature of this is going to again promote all these fruits. So if this is the first distillation, these two stills, that's coming into this side of the safe. And if you see this running, it runs very slowly. So I always say, if this is running, it's only like a 3-finger flow. So there's a kind of 3-finger flow of liquid coming in these slippers. If you ever go to a distillery and you look in here, and this liquid is like, thrashing in, what that means is, in the still, the boil is very heavy.
Yeah.
If this is running harder here, in there, the boil is going up and down, up and down, up and down. So if you go to a distillery and you see this running very slowly, you know it's a very, nice gentle boil. So again, getting good alcohol.
What does it do to the liquid?
Basically, the best thing about it is you get the copper contact. You know that you're not. If you boil hard, you're actually going to bring a lot of water over with that boil.
Yeah.
If it's a rolling boil. But gently simmering it, it's only the best alcohol vapor that's coming out.
So that means process is longer.
It's actually, do you know something slightly? But we're not in any rush anyway.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
And you can. That's I always say to people: look at the speed. And I've got to some distilleries, and I'm like seeing it coming in, and I'm like,
water.
But also copper contact. No way can that spirit get the right copper contact if it's coming too fast.
So how do you move the?
Basically, this one doesn't move. This one is fixed. So this one here. Anything that's getting boiled in number 1 wash still is coming up, and then here, that's going to fall into here. So that's going to be at first. Within the first 10 minutes, that'll be like 50 ABV, and then we measure the hydrometer over the next 6 hours. Again, 6-hour turnover in the stills. That'll go right down to water, right down to 0 ABV, removing all the alcohol from the stills. And as soon as that reads 0, we know it's only water coming through here, so we stop it. There's nothing else.
Okay, so this would tell you.
Yeah, that's the wee hydrometer there. You can get more. You can get more technical digital machines these days, but the boys just look at that. You can fill that wee jar up, look at it, and that's it there. And that's all ending up here. By the time of taking that, the 30,000 litres of beer, and then 15,000 litres in each one of these, by the time we collect this in here, now it's about 9,500 litres. So this 9,500 litres of the low wines is then what's going to go into the spirit stills. So that's a smaller spirit still there. What you can maybe smell here, it's okay doing this while it's shut, but this, if you went to another distillery and you smelt this, it'd be quite oily, it'd be quite vegetal, but even here I think you'd be able to smell that lovely, have a smell just there. It's clean again, it's fresh, it's fruity.
There's a lot of color. Don't take too deep breath. That's clean, it's clean.
Yeah. Again, that's another
Wake up every morning.
Can get high.
Yeah.
Now that's another thing I think the mineralities bring in. Sometimes if you've got a different water, there'll be oils in that water which will be dirtier, oilier and deeper, where again, just fresh.
I thought it's supposed to be long.
Well, it's just because the boys have stuck down, it's just cleaning it just now. So yeah, that's us collected that there, 9,500 litres, and then it's going to be spirit stills, and then this is where we move it into this side of the bowls. So I don't know if you can see closer here. If you look into that, can you see all that green?
Yeah.
The green verdigris.
Yeah.
Very seldom you'll find that at distilleries. For me, that's a sign of the higher minerality of the water, which is going to create more of the acidity in the beer. Long fermentation is going to also bring acidity to the beer. So basically, all that green is the copper oxidization. That's what I love about seeing this, how green that is. We know the copper is contacting fantastically because we can see it here, how our beer is, our production is eating into that copper. Yeah. You'll never see that anywhere else. I guarantee it. You might see a little bit of green here and there, but to see the greenness to the extent of this is crazy. And that's just, again, the stills wearing and then the oxidation of that. So if we bring the beer in, sorry, the second distillation in. At first it will be in this bowl, so these bowls without the cover. This is what we call, where we split up the heads and the tails, you know. So I always say if that's the start of the run, then the end of the run, again, maybe 6 hours from start to finish. Out of all Speyside whiskies, now this is as far as we can find, and even Rachel's looked into this, as far as we can find, BenRiach has got the largest heart of the run, the biggest middle cut. So when it first comes in here, only 12.5 minutes that it'll stay here in impurities. So that 4 shots very short. And again, that's because we can run it slowly. We're running it slowly, so we're getting cleaner spirit quicker. So by taking it here, 12.5 minutes, as soon as the boys are happy, 12.5, 30 minutes, move it on to here, then that's us started collecting. So when we collect that spirit, it basically falls down that black pipe and ends up in the tank under your feet there. So that's 12.5 minutes. So the next maybe 2.5 hours, same thing, looking at hydrometers. That'll be about 72% ABV. Then over time, that alcohol start going down, 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 down. So if you look at that time scale of 6 hours, 12.5 minutes here, then over that next 2 hours, 2.5 hours, when that gets to 60.5 on the hydrometer, switch it back again. So that's a very long cut. Most distilleries, the 4 shots would be even up to 25, 30 minutes, if not more. And then most of them would cut off even up at 63, 64% ABV. So by running slowly, we've just opened out that window of opportunity. Now, what that's going to bring flavour-wise is that part at the start, as we move on earlier, by going on early, we're catching more of the volatile alcohols. So that's all the fruit compounds. If you smell that, it's like, it's almost like pineapple, and you know, it's got this tropical fruit through it. You know, it's got this kind of real high ABV, high volatile alcohols. That's all the fruit complexity there. But then by running it longer than other people, what we're going to get by staying on longer is more of that barley cereal note. So we're capturing not only the fruit compounds at the start, but the barley flavour at the bottom. If you've got a narrow window, you're not going to get that. Macallan actually, I don't know why I say it, but Macallan say, they advertise that they've got the shortest middle cut of any Speyside whisky.
Shortest what?
Yeah.
Middle.
The shortest heart. That's their tag. It's like, well, that for me doesn't make much sense because it's a very short window. But I do know why they do it, because their still shapes dictate that. Because if you look at a Macallan still, it's lower and it's got a steep descending angle.
Yes.
So they have to leave it on longer on 4 shots because of the shape of the still to start collecting that purified whiskey spirit. And the same thing, they have to go off earlier because that still shape will give them different.
But that doesn't mean inefficiency, right?
No. The thing is, there's no rights and wrongs. That's what their still shape dictates. That's what our still shape dictates, or our production techniques. But again, it just means, in fact, I did it was in Germany with our guy out there, and I was trying to describe how to put this. So what I said to him was, if you think about, you're sitting in your living room, and you've got a beautiful view outside. How big do you want your window to look out of? You know, if you've got a lovely view out there, do you just want a small window to look out and only enjoy that small part of your view? What we've got is a big window to look out of and enjoy the whole view.
Right.
So again, as far as we can find, I have to say as far as we can find, because a lot of people don't tell you the detail in this. It's a top secret, if I tell you, I have to kill you scenario. But we're very open, we'll happily tell people. But as far as we can find, we've got the biggest heart of any Speyside whisky. When it comes to the peated whisky, when we do the peated whisky, everything is the same, all the way through production. The barley is about 45 ppm, but that barley as it comes through, the production that comes through is exactly the same, apart from at this stage. So basically, if I'm doing the same thing, 12.5 minutes, 30 minutes, poof, move it onto there. This time, I'll let it go to 59.5 ABV. So just sneak it down 1% lower, so about 5 minutes longer before I then swap over. And by going just 1 ABV lower in strength, what we get flavour profile at the lower end alcohols is more of the phenols. You get a spike of phenols and also another spike of a sweet barley note. So if you do taste the BenRiach spirit, even the new make spirit, classic and peated, the peated will will taste, although the smokiness will be there, the peated spirit will taste slightly sweeter and slightly more barley focused, just because of that wee 5-minute difference by going 1 ABV lower. It's a tiny wee thing, but it makes so much difference in the palate. I think it's, yeah, again, I wish it was running here to see this, but anyway, you can understand hopefully. But we can taste some of this, smell or feel it. So if I was to, let's see. There's a little bit here left. Let me get these topped up.
What's the biggest hut do? You said BenRiach is the biggest hut.
Yeah.
What is it?
Basically,
influence the...
just you get, by going on early, you get more fruits, and by leaving it on longer, you get more barley. So we've opened the window of flavour profiles up for getting more fruits at the front end and more barley at the back end, rather than a narrow window. When you'll still get lovely alcohol from that, but by going out further, you definitely get more fruit compounds at the start and barley compounds at the end. So this is a wee sample. Now I'll put a little bit in your hand. I'll put a little bit in your hand. And what I do with this is just like put it in your hand, but as soon as you've given it a rub, do one big smell. And that's exactly what we'll get, is all these big fruit compounds. So this is that. This is it. Just after moving over, 12.5 minutes, moving on to spirit. I'll let you do it. You don't want the chance of any levers being left open. Yeah, new make spirit that side, any aged whiskey on this side.
You bought your single cask here?
Yeah. And actually what the boys are doing just now, this is a blender making. Now, I don't know, are you familiar with Cavazara?
Yeah.
We do a little up with them. No, not Cavazara, I'm thinking of Kakioka. Japanese. So we do a lot of blended work for those. This is actually a blended whiskey that we're making to send out there. Now you can see it's not even our whiskey. It's whiskey that historically Billy Walker swapped with all different distilleries back in the day. So we can still do some blended work for third parties and bring in some nice money. And that's a day-to-day pocket, which makes you just be able to sit back a little bit. I'll take this with me because I don't have any glasses in here, but I'll take this with me and we can taste the new make spirit as we get back to the office. But what we can do is put a little bit in your hand again and just see that. So you put a nice bit there. Same thing. Initial smell, fruits, and then let that barley dissipate. Let the alcohol dissipate and go back to the barley.
What sort of barrel is this BenRiach use?
Well, nowadays, I was saying, if I was to order barrels off the Speyside Cooperage 10 miles away, you get maybe 120 barrels in a lorry, and I'll get maybe 7 different styles of bourbon barrel.
Bourbon barrels?
Yeah. If I was to order them locally, I would get Heaven Hill, Maker's Mark, a bit of Jack Daniels, you would get some other unknown distilleries, unknown American whiskey barrels. But since 2000, it was this time in 2016 that Brown-Forman acquired the distillery. So everything from then does come direct from the US. So Jack barrels, Woodford malt barrels. We haven't had any Old Forester yet, but I would love to get some of those over. And then the sherry cask. Majority of BenRiach loves bourbon. Yeah, I would say up to 80%, 85% are bourbon barrels here. We do some sherry work for the 12-year-old, for example, or Rachel always likes a little bit of sherry to use in addition into the combination of barrels. But BenRiach, just think about it, I always say, BenRiach's going to have lovely apples, pears, fresh fruit notes, and then you've got the lovely American characters of toffees, vanillas, butterscotch. So they're almost perfect partners. The spirit of BenRiach and an American barrel flavour is absolutely perfect. It gives all these lovely creme brulee, patisserie kind of notes running through it. That's across bourbon, sherry, red wines, ports, rums, Madeiras, Marsalas, Gaia Barros, Chateauquin, Sauterne. I could go on with the cask styles we have, but then also different sizes. So if you look at the sizes we have here for the small octave barrel, and then we've also got this lovely wee quarter casks, that's that wee quarter cask there. Then the American Standard barrel, traditional hogshead, and then up to the barriques of the wine, and then the sherry cask butts. So even the size of cask alone, we've got, I don't know what's that, 7 different sizes, combined with 35 different styles over 4 different production styles of spirit. No other distillery has this, full stop. So when Rachel walks in here, this is like a kid in a candy store. You know, the amount of ingredients that Rachel has to work with is through the roof. You know?
The malt mixture.
Yeah. Again, Glendronach, she's only got all the Rosso and Pedro to work with. That's great, because that balance is fantastic. Glenglassa, I get a few different styles over there, but majority bourbon, sherry, and a little bit of red wine. But in here, this is just an awesome larder for Rachel to go in and play with.
But is there a reason why you want to explore so many different types of casks?
Well, I think that spirit's a good thing about that. It's a very versatile spirit. Now, if you look at, let's call out Balvenie 12-year-old. Lovely whiskey. I love it. Know Dave very well, good friend. If you look at an advert for that, they say, this is our lovely 12-year-old sherrywood, or double wood, or what we call it, spent, and you see Dave in the warehouse saying this spends 11.5 years in finest American oak barrels, and then 6 months in sherry cask. Now that's great. Same as a Caribbean barrel, it's about 4 months in the rum barrel. The older port casks is getting 4 months in finishing. We were just very lucky that every one of the owners before us have laid down things in here. So Billy Walker, or even like BenRiach did the triple, Glenlivet did the peak. So it's not just about, you can be experimental, but if you're experimental, it's a quick fix, because you're trying to jump on the market today, or you try to do things in the warehouse today for the consumer of today. Whereas we've got history of laying down this stuff, going back to the 60s with the peat, the 90s with the triple, and even into the early part of the kind of 2004-5 with the wine finishes. So if you even see any of the wine finishes we do, Billy was excited, you know, it was like, let's do this, let's do this. But what that means is we've laid down a lot of wine finishes that aren't just 6 months. If we're doing a wine finish, it'll be 6 years, you know, or if Rachel brings together, for example, a new recipe for the Curiosities, which is some rum barrels in it. And that rum isn't just a quick 6 months finish in the rum barrel when, hey presto, conveyor belt. That rum has been sitting in that second barrel up to 4, 5, 6 years. So again, it just adds that depth we're bringing to the liquid. But Billy was excited, because it was the first time when he actually bought this place, the first time he had his own distillery. So he himself was, right, what can I do? How can I utilise the different casks available? And I suppose along with Glenmorangie and BenRiach, Billy was one of the first, well, BenRiach, BenRiach and Glenmorangie were, I suppose, back in 2004, the first guys really starting to do finishes in a big way, you know. Most people do that now, but again, a lot of people, as I say, do it for that shorter spread of time.
Moving forward, will this continue?
Yeah.
By being more experimental?
Yeah, I think, do you know something? There's certain words that you try to look for. I don't even know what to say. You know, I think you say experimental or diverse or innovative. It's like all these words. I just think, well, we've just been doing it.
Yeah. It's tradition to you, right?
Yeah, and even marketing our struggle of how do we get that word across? You know, I suppose the diversity of styles here is huge. Like Glenfiddich do the experimental series just now. But what I feel as well, if you start pushing towards, which is pushing towards the millennial, experimental, spray paint a big wall with this big tagline. All your traditional drinkers will go, that's not my old Glenfiddich. I don't think I like that anymore. You know, people drink with their passion for distilleries is quite heartfelt sometimes. So that's why I think as well, if you start, I think a lot of these experimental distilleries are pushing for the millennial palate, which again has changed already, and we're on to whatever they are now. You know, and you're looking, that's just creating a small thing for that one window. Whereas what we're laying down is for the future. Other things we can do as well is we'll bring over more of the American barrels. So I think we've got the Sonoma-Cutrer cask coming over. So that'll give us some of the Pinot Noirs and Chardonnays. Again, that's a nice wee introduction there. I don't think we'll bring any Herradura over though. I don't know how tequila would work, so maybe leave that one.
Herradura.
I love how to use in the floor maltings, but I didn't know the time scale or how much needed, so I had to refuse that offer. But that's still on the plate, you know. I think even going forward, if we were to work with a farmer in this field, even if we're going down like an organic route, you know, if we control of that barley, we can go into maybe a more organic style of production.
Sustainable farming.
Yeah, yeah. I guess everybody's going that way, you know.
Is there any floor
That's it.
malting?
Last years of the decade, it was like, you're like, yes, make more. Whiskey's booming. Then the start of the decade is like, oh shit, made too much. Cool down again. So if you look at the warehouse, you'll see the late part of the decades there's more availability, then the early part of the decades there's less. And you also got to remember that BenRiach was always used for blending. So the fact we can get any barrels left is fantastic, because as a blender, we're probably only left with point something percent of what would have been made back in the day, you know, as blender, as the whiskey was used. So when some people say they haven't tasted BenRiach, they probably have, because you things like Royal Salute, Chivas Regal, 105ers. We used to, up until last year, we used to still sell whiskey to Pernod Ricard, new make spirit. And we would send it to Keith, they would keep it, and then they would use it in their blends. Just this year, just at Christmas, we stopped that contract, which now everything here is all here. Yeah. Which is good. It means we don't have to change our production. You know, we're getting almost extra 500,000 litres in our pockets by not selling to Pernod Ricard, meaning we don't have to change any of our production techniques. You know. You're starting to bite it. So the yellow lines there, when you go upstairs, what you'll see in those, they're big concrete baths, big steeps. So basically we've got 5 tons of barley at the moment sitting in the water, and it sits there for 3 days, building that moisture content. You know, the barley off the field is very maybe narrow, thin barley grain. Then over that 3 days, that moisture content builds up. That's almost ready. That's ready to go to the floor, to the drying.
So they smash it, right?
Yeah. 3 days of steep onto this floor. Now this is about a week. Now even if you feel at top, that's quite cold touch. But if you go underneath, you can maybe start to feel the heat a little bit. You can go a bit further, but you fill these wee hot spots. That's why you have to keep that turning. So when you see the guys spreading it, when they throw the barley, what they're doing is cooling it down, spreading it, but also stopping the roots from binding together. Yeah, so they want to keep that separated all the time. So when you get the monkey shoulder, it's about keeping that apart. And once you know it's ready, so it's like, well, how do you tell when it's reached its maximum sugars? It's quite easy. You can tell by the sprout. So the sprout's almost the same length as the grain itself. But also when you squeeze it, if you squeeze it, the white part in the middle should be almost just like putty. It should go away to nothing. If it was still having to germinate, you would find a small sugar lump almost in there. That sugar would be hard to build a little grain of sugar that wouldn't quite break. So actually, you can do these things by chemical, you can do these things by analysis, you can send it to the lab and they would analyse it. Has it reached its maximum sugar content? Has it finished germination? Is it the right part of germination? But, or you can just do that.
It's that.
But, yeah. And what people said was if you could write your name on like a chalkboard with it, that's when it was ready. So if if it was soft enough to write your name, you know, like that. If it was a hard bit left, you would.
So this is ready, right?
That's ready to go. Yeah. So, but tomorrow morning. But you got to be careful because, see, in the summer, you know, that's the one good thing about Scotland. Okay, we get nice even temperatures through the year. There's no big peaks and troughs. But if it was unusually hot here, that germination would take place quicker. So you'd have to turn it more, and you have to be very careful. But even all these windows are there not only for light, but just for almost causing airflow. So by opening the windows at different, depending on the wind direction, we can get the water, sorry, not the water, the cooler air flowing over the floor, which then slows down that barley. If you want a wee rake of it, the water was up. See the tight mark? See the mark there? This was full of water.
Oh, it's filled with water.
And last night the boys opened the drain valve and started draining the water off. So you can see how that line there, the water is now draining off. And when we move the floor there just now, when that goes onto the kiln tomorrow, this will then go onto the floor and start the next. Section. So this has had its steeping time, 3 days in the steep, and that's us just building that moisture content in here.
Also, because you put it there, then you put it there.
No, this is the first stage. So
First,
basically from the field into there.
wash
And
it.
I would say if it was from the field, it's very long and narrow, and then over the 3 days here, that moisture that's building up, the water in there, just plumps up that barley, and then it goes to floor for then the germination and sprouting. So 3 days on the floor, anywhere between 7 and 10, 12, depending on the weather, and then after that germination process has taken place, that's when we move it to the top of the kiln to slowly dry. Going, and that'll burn off any debris here, so that'll kind of sanitize the floor. And then from the floor, the barley that's sitting there just now will go up a big shaft, then come down this pipe, and then the boys with the barrel will just spread it along this floor. So it's maybe about six inches deep, covered in this floor. And then over the next 3 days, again low temperature, fire, just slowly drying that barley. We don't so much want heat, we don't want to toast the barley, we just want to remove the water, the moisture. So over the 3 days, just slowly drying it, then every 2 hours this turns, and that just turns the barley over, keeping it spread. And it's at this point, if you want peat, so it's at this point you would do peated whiskey. So instead, if it was 3 days drying, normally for classic, we just use a neutral fuel source, so anthracite or coke, something that's not going to create any oils. But then if you want peaty whiskey, roughly for about, well, anywhere between 18 and 24 hours, you would put peat on the fire. And then that peat, is the smoke of this peat is going to then rise up, dry the barley as well as the smoke, engulfing the barley as well. So this is the way the peat is infused into the barley itself. And depending what you want,
How do you control the level amount of peat you want?
It's weird as well. It's one of these things just by experience and time. Now we were very, very fortunate because when I first got this place up and running in 2012, we still remain in good contact with the old workers here. So I know 5 guys in Elgin who used to work here back from the 1950s.
Wow.
When I first said to them, "I'm going to start this up again," I said, "No problem, I'll come up." So these old guys who are walking sticks is like, they showed us everything we needed to know. Even a guy called Robert Fleming, now he's now the manager of Tom and Tool. He used to be the brewer here back in the 1980s. So even he gave us a lot of old technical charts, timing charts that he had in his attic. So that was fantastic, having that first-hand experience from then, and we then opened it up. So we have not experimented with peat here, but I guarantee when we do, we'll get these old guys back in again with their walking sticks, and they can give us some hints and tips.
Right.
You can't beat that knowledge, You can't buy that knowledge. Some things you can't learn. You need. It takes 20, 30, 40 years to learn. So let's use their experience. And once it's finished drying here, as I say, that 3-day period, basically we pull that door up, and then we push it all into the vats next door, the silos next door, and then that stays there. Once you've finished this, you can't just mash it straight away. It has to sit, in storage for a little while. I always say it just lets the barley relax a little bit. If you put it straight from here, the barley's still going to be a bit tight. So by storing it there for maybe 3 or 4 months, just lets that barley relax again. So when you mill it, you're going to get that. When you put it through the mill, you're going to get that right combination. But definitely the flavour profile from here, as I mentioned, the spirit from here, this production, it isn't quite as fruit forward. It's not quite as sweet barley forward. It definitely is a more earthy, rich barley note. More barley, definitely a heavier barley note to the spirit. So it is very different. Which then means you have to be careful what cask you put it in. There'd be no point in putting that in a big heavy barrel that's going to destroy all these delicate nuances. So you've got to maybe Rachel's filling different barrels that then she can work with and how she brings that together. I'm not sure what it will be cask-wise, but we have filled many different barrels, which Rachel down the line can do her magic and bring that together. But yeah, it's great. Love it.
Easy.
Even floor all things that are operational today will not use, I don't think, coke or coal. They'll use a hot air system.
Bagi video ni.
The sweeter it is, the more rye you have, the spicier it is. The barley's always there for the backbone as well. Yeah. Whereas we're flipping that round. We've only got barley, but in our warehouse, that's our mash bill. The bourbon barrel is like our corn. The virgin oak is like our rye. The sherry cask is like the barley, you know. And again, we're going to bring that together in different percentages to harmonise that palate. This 2 weeks ago in Gothenburg, 15,000 people over 3 days at the event. The 10-year-old, we put whiskies in different categories. So the 10-year-old won the best whisky in its category. We're up and got the medal. Yay, fantastic. Got a wee thing on, oh, got a wee medal there, brilliant. Got a wee picture. Up again for the 21-year-old, we got third in its category. Authenticus got, I think it was again second. Some Glendronachs we put in, also get some golds and some silvers. And then at the very end, I get called up again because this whisky was voted the best whisky, not only in its bracket, but out of all 3,000 whiskies that were entered into it.
BenRiach 10.
Yeah.